Hello and welcome to BBC London News with me, Riz Latif. If you pay for your travel with an Oyster card, it could cost you up to £100 a week more than using your bank card. Transport bosses were forced to admit the flaw in the system following research by Labour members of the London Assembly. They found that the weekly cap that commuters are supposed to be given automatically, so they pay the lowest fare, only applies to contactless bank cards, not Oyster cards. The Mayor's promised the system will be updated, but changes could take years. Mark Ashdown has the story.
With 57 million journeys every week, Oyster now dominates the transport system. But these handy smart cards could be leaving some passengers out of pocket. You can now use your contactless bank card to pay for journeys. Convenient, and it now appears often cheaper too. For example, travel around in zones 4 to 7 on a peak day travel card and you'll never pay more than £19.60, regardless of whether you use contactless payment or an Oyster card. That's the maximum daily rate, no matter how many journeys you make. But travel on one extra day in a week's period, and this will only charge you the maximum weekly rate of £29.40, whereas this will keep charging you the daily rate. So over a 7-day period, 5 peak weekdays and 2 cheaper weekends, this would charge you £121 or £91 more than if you'd used this for the same journeys. Over a year, that adds up to £4,700. Embarrassing for the Mayor, who has always touted Oyster as the cheapest way to travel. Many Londoners aren't even aware.
Just worry because I know how much I've got on my Oyster card, whereas if it's going through my debit card, it's harder to keep a check on what's going out of my account.
Did you think Oyster was best value though on the transport system?
I assumed it was the same.
No, I didn't realise that. Yeah, and I thought Oyster was the best value and the best way to do it. So,
do you think they should tell people?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, if they can save some money.
I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me.
That's quite all right. Will you change now?
I will. It's certainly change because I've got both. Yeah, exactly.
Not everyone has the choice, which is what's concerning Labour, who exposed this loophole.
There's nearly 500,000 Londoners who don't have a bank account, let alone a contactless card, and a lot of those people will be low-paid workers. And I think it's particularly worrying for people who don't have a regular work pattern, because if you haven't got a contactless card, the best way to get a good travel deal is to buy a travel card. But in fact, most people don't know that this situation exists.
Which is why Transport for London is doing this. Getting the message out about contactless payment.
Contactless has been live for all of 7 weeks so far. It's a very new system. By and large, Londoners are very clever people and they understand the fare structure, and anyone who travels 7 days a week on the transport network knows that the best way to travel is to buy a weekly travel card.
Which is possible if you prepay in advance, though nowhere near as flexible. The Mayor says technology is being updated and a full flexible weekly cap will one day be available on Oyster. That could take years. In the meantime, it's still up to passengers to find out if they're really getting the cheapest fare. Mark Ashdown, BBC London News.
Coming up later in the programme.